Barb saw his temper every now and then when he'd been drinking, but put it down to disappointment in his life. He had escaped the family farm and become a pilot and was playing football in the big smoke, but he got called back to work on the farm and his dreams died. 3 little girls followed in quick succession. Even when she was pregnant and he'd locked her in the nursery for 3 days without food or water or somewhere to go to the bathroom, she didn't tell anybody, and she didn't leave because she loved him. It didn't take long for the violence to begin. At first she thought it was her fault, that she wasn't good enough, that she must have done something wrong, and so she would go to Mass and pray that things would get better. She didn't tell anyone because she had taken a vow and she was ashamed. She didn't tell her sister or her parents. She thought she'd made her bed and she should lie in it. She didn't leave because she loved him. Friday and Saturday nights after the pub closed were always the same. The family would wait for the car door to slam and then waited for the violence to begin. It generally began with the evening's dinner, which was being warmed on the stovetop, thrown against the wall, and then the fists would start to fly. Barb would try to get the 3 girls in bed before he came home, but that didn't always protect them. The girls had vivid memories of these nights, nights when one of them would run to the neighbours to plead with the man next door to come in and stop Dad hurting Mum. Nights when the violence was so bloody that the police would come, they would quiet things down and then leave, and retribution always followed. So the family stopped calling the police, and Barb stayed because she loved him. One night the 2 older girls awoke to hear the most pitiful sound, like the sound of a wounded animal. They went into their mother's room and saw her sitting on the bed, sobbing and holding a chunk of her scalp and a large bleeding wound on her head. She couldn't work out how she could go to school the next day and hide it from her fellow teachers. The girls found a chocolate box and took the green ribbon off it and helped her fashion a headband from the ribbon so that no one would know. The girls were sworn to secrecy. The girls were used to making up stories about their mother's bruises or their bruises. The girls were taught to be ashamed of their family's dirty little secret. Many a night the older daughter would try to stop the baby from jumping up and down in her cot and giggling because she was too little to understand that it endangered them all. The baby thought it was a game when the older sisters hid her under the bed or in the wardrobe. One night that still brings nightmares was waking up and hearing Barb pleading for her life. The oldest girl's job was to hide the carving knife with the red handle. No one told her to do it, she just knew that she should. That night the girls had forgotten to hide the red knife. The middle daughter remembers standing behind her father who was wielding the red knife. She remembers picking up the metal extension of the vacuum cleaner and saying, "You kill Mum and you're next." And with that she was thrown up against a wall and given a black eye, and it would not be the last time. She was 7. The nuns at the school and the parish priest prayed for the family, and then they stopped asking why the daughters had bruises or black eyes. The local police knew, but in small country towns, people mind their own business. Barb's family was one of a number of families in that small country town whose weekends were spent covered in blood. There were no family holidays, there were no friends' sleepovers, because if they did they were terrified and they never came back and they stopped being friends with the girls. When the family moved to acreage, things got worse. With no neighbours, no one could hear the screams. In the new house they all had their own rooms with sliding doors along a passageway, and they would wait in dread as the first door slammed open and then the next, and finally to the middle daughter's room, who took many a punch meant for her mother.